There are so many of you in here. I love this! Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, ever since the recent patch, the game has felt almost revitalized at how quick it is to level up. XP is up across the board in Nightmare Dungeons to the point where they are definitively just the best way to farm experience in the game, which is honestly exactly what it should have been from the start, but that is fantastic to have be a proper thing now. With that said, I thought it would be good to revisit our old list of the best Nightmare Dungeons to farm for experience, with the addition of the concept that you no longer have any travel time to get to a dungeon thanks to sigil teleportation, and we'll talk about what the actual experience per hour figures could look like for some of these in the best builds, so you know which ones to actually aim for, which sigils to look out for, and which ones to run and prioritize if you're just looking to grind pure experience. On top of that, we have a new legendary farm, a loot cave if you will, and this place is actually insane, with a whopping 26 elites inside of it on average, and you can run it faster than you used to run Ironhold, which was the old best legendary farm location, which only had about 16 elites in it on average too, so our farm potential has gone up an insane amount on all sides really. Let's start with the loot cave then, as it will take a bit to fully break down the best options for the Nightmare Dungeons themselves. The dungeon for this, our loot cave, is going to be Mercy's Reach in the Fractured Peaks, all the way at the northern end before the map turns into Skull's Glen. If you head into this dungeon, the first objective is to slay 3 elite enemies. Usually the first area of this is a really small box shape, so clear out those 3 objective elites, and then usually there is another pack of 3 elites just roaming around the place before you proceed. The second objective is where it gets really juicy though. This is a return the mechanical boxes to the pedestals objective, but as opposed to many other dungeons with this objective, the paths are actually extremely straightforward. There are always just 2 hallways leading off of the pedestal area, and they each are just a straight line heading to a room that is full of elites with the objective item inside. More often than not, the hallway itself will actually have a pack of 3 elites as well, so kill them, move to the big room which usually has 7 elites inside of it, kill all of those, then you want to head back to the pedestal area and then take the other hallway off of it. Again, another high chance of pack of elites on the way for you to kill, and then in the end room there is usually 7 elites as well. Add that all together, 3 for the first objective, 3 in that area as well, 3 in hallway 1, 7 in the room at the end of the hallway, 3 in hallway 2, and 7 in the end of that hallway, and that's 26 elites to kill each run. I was averaging this in about 90 seconds as well. Once all of these elites are dead, you want to reset the dungeon, as the following objective is not worth it for farming legendaries, so just use the exit dungeon button on the emote wheel, log out, log back in, and then go at it once more. I was getting an average of about 2 legendaries per run. Some were less, some were more, but 2 was the average. If we extrapolate 2 legendaries every 90 seconds, that would be 80 legendaries per hour, and even regardless of whether you get lucky or not and reach that number, that is over 1,000 elites that you can kill per hour when you run this strat, which is simply the most efficient way to murder a bunch of loot bombs that we currently have.
Goddamn massacre, Pop.
With that covered then, let's talk more about the experience side of things, the other main grind in the game. Quite simply, especially after the patch, Nightmare Dungeons are the best way to farm experience. They patched out the old reset method that people were using to run the same sigil over and over, so that's gone. Now your best bet is simply to just run them properly, to the end, then do another one. With all the Nightmare Dungeons across the board getting an 80% boost both to experience gain from the monsters that you kill themselves, and also the completion rewards, it actually feels quite good to do so as well. Even the less efficient dungeons feel super rewarding now. The worst Nightmare Dungeon is still better experience now than the best non-Nightmare Dungeon is. That said, that's not enough for any of us right in itself. It's good to know that we should do Nightmare Dungeons and that Nightmare Dungeons are great, but knowing which sigils you should prioritize changes everything even further. It tells you which ones that you should do no matter what if you have the option to do so. Well, the first thing to mention is that monster bonus XP is no longer capped at 3 levels above you. Before this patch, monsters that were 3 levels above you gave you 25% increased experience, and monsters that were 10 levels above you gave you 25% increased experience, so for purely farming purposes, it was pointless to do a Nightmare Sigil that had monsters anything more than 3 levels above you, making that the sweet spot. Now, however, that cap is seemingly gone, but there is significantly diminishing returns on monsters more than 3 levels above you. That said, monsters that are more than 3 levels above you will actually give you more than 25% increased experience now. Monsters that are 10 levels above you will give you around 35% increased experience, but are obviously quite a bit harder to kill than monsters only 3 levels above you. So essentially you want to do the Nightmare Dungeon tier that you can complete the smoothest and most comfortable that is a minimum of 3 levels above you. If you are doing one that is 10 levels above, even 10% slower than the one that is only 3 levels above, it's no longer worth doing as far as experience goes. So try a few of them out, gauge the power of your build and what you can comfortably just murder through like it's nothing, and then go from there. Past that, of course, we have the specific dungeons. Which ones are the best to aim for? Of course, as you would expect, the best one still still is far and away Blind Burrows. This one will give you about 1.8 million experience for clearing out the entire place now. I cleared it out in 2.5 minutes myself, which averages out at 43.2 million experience per hour. But an even more efficient farming build than the one that I used can clear it in 2 minutes flat, which would average a whopping 54 million experience per hour. Obviously that number is a pipe dream, as it would require you to have an inventory just full of Blind Burrow sigils at the perfect set of levels above your character that you could just jump from one right into the next with no downtime, no bad affixes anywhere turning the tables against your time to completion, nothing like that. But that is still to say 54 million per hour is possible right now. Nothing compares to Blind Burrows in that regard. It is number one by a fair margin. Following that though, there are still some very, very good ones. I would say that the top tier, which includes Blind Burrows of course, is 6 dungeons. These are the ones that you really want to aim for. The others in this tier are Ghoulron Canals. It has an exceptionally fast clear time and really good mob density too. Always run this if you have the choice. Sunken Ruins is now another top tier one. Before the patch, this one was rated a bit lower because it had some travel time to get to from any waypoint, but now that you can teleport to it, it's actually super strong. It has great density. I was getting about 1.9 million experience in a 3.5 minute run, which averages out at 32.6 million experience per hour if you run it on repeat. Then I've got Wraithwind Wilds in 4th. Again, a super quick one with good density. Alderwood in 5th. And then finally, for the top tier, we have Mallwood. This one is incredibly fast to run too, and also just full of mobs. Past that, it starts to die down a fair bit. The experience drop off here makes things go below 30 million per hour on average, but everything above this line is 30 million or higher. Just in case you don't have any of those though, I will rattle off a few more that are also pretty decent, not quite as good as those 6, but still absolutely worth running if you don't have the top tier sigils available to you. In no particular order for those, there is Demon's Wake in Skosglen, Whispering Pines, also in Skosglen up in the northeast corner. Again, that is one that has been improved quite a bit by getting access to teleporting to the entrance given where it is. Champion's Demise in the Dry Steppes, a classic experience farm. This is a solid one to run because it's actually quite long to actually get through, but the density of monsters is really high inside, so the reward for only a single sigil is still super solid here, giving upwards of 2.3 million experience for a singular full clear. Then there's also Witchwater in Hawazar, just a nice, dense, quick dungeon. Cordrigan Barracks in the Fractured Peaks is pretty decent too, and then finally Lost Archives in the Fractured Peaks as well. Everything below this point is notably less reward for the amount of time spent, so avoid them for experience farming purposes unless you have no other options. There you go then everyone, the new best loot cave for farming pure legendary aspects in the game, as well as what you want to focus on both in terms of sigil tier level now for Nightmare Dungeons, and then a list of the 6 best Nightmare Dungeons to run in the game for pure experience, as well as a handful of other ones that are still worth doing if you don't have the top ones. I hope you've enjoyed this, and hopefully it helps enhance your continuing journey through the game, both to reaching level 100 and to maxing out any build that you want to try as far as legendary and uniques dropping. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and then most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.